I'm going to call the meeting to order. Mr. Stephen Bell is going to do our devotion tonight. If you would like to come up here and
approach. It's good to be here tonight. Bow your heads. Heavenly Father, we thank you, Lord, that we can be here tonight, Lord, and pray for the city of Westmoreland and things that's discussed here tonight. We pray that you would bring peace and wisdom and knowledge as we discuss these things. Father, I pray for grace and mercy. Thank you for your Son, Jesus, and come to teach us the way. We ask your blessings tonight in Jesus' name. Amen.
thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Kelly, call the roll.
Chandler Wilkers. Here. Calvert.
Here.
Brown.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Lee.
Here.
Next item on the agenda is to adopt the agenda. If you adopt the agenda, you are approving that we will not have the meeting Thursday night because those items have been included on this agenda.
I make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Do anyone here want to speak for the public comments on anything on the agenda tonight? Mrs. Tillman has something she'd like to say?
Yeah. One day we met out here at the gazebo, and it was a mess. So we cleaned it up. Miss Glenda and our advocate gardeners, and we cleaned that up. Okay, I told Keisha, I asked her who was in charge of that, and she says nobody that she knew of. So I volunteered to take care of the gazebo and all of that up and down through there. Is that okay with everybody?
We can't discuss that tonight, it's not on the agenda.
I'm sorry?
We can't discuss that tonight because it's not on the agenda.
Ms. Sue, if you'll talk to us after this meeting, we'll talk to you about what we have to have in place to let that happen, okay?
Okay, well, what was I supposed to say?
Well, this is such a fine, but we can't discuss it off of the formal agenda, so we'll get you what you need after the meeting.
Okay.
Next thing on the agenda is the minutes for 10/20/22.
Moving to adopt the meeting minutes as is from October 12th, 2022.
Second.
Motion and second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
October 2022 financial statement. Are there any notes to this financial statement, Ms. Keisha?
There are notes on page 2. Just a bunch of miscellaneous, just to kind of explain things that might be in question.
Thank you. Do you have a motion?
I motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Ms. Kelly, roll this vote, please.
Calver,
Yes.
Brown,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Wilkerson. Yes.
Motion carries. Under old business, the second reading of ordinance 0102-022-1. This is the budget amendment to approve the funds for the paving and for the AMI system. Anybody have any questions?
I have a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion is second. Does anybody have any questions? Did we change something from last time to this
Yes.
time?
We changed the paving amount from $240 on the first reading to $250 on the second. And then we also added the street maintenance for $9,920.
That's for the tile.
That's for the tile. But that's the only two items that have changed.
So it will be approved as amended, right?
Yes.
Ms. Kelly, call the roll, please.
Brown,
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Wilkerson. Yes. Calver.
Yes.
Okay. Second reading of the budget amendment has passed. Now, under the new business, we have the rate study presentation.
Won't you knock the other two out before you're done?
Okay, well, yeah, we can do that. Hold on, let's get two more things out of the way, and then we'll let you go.
All good
Thank you. The change order for the treatment plant, what Keisha provided in the packet is the change order number 1 and number 2. She did not include it, she did pass out on the table tonight, the information that Logan brought to the table last month, and that's what he was asking to be approved, not that change order that's in the packet. And Mr. Bradley, you spoke with Logan today? for
Yes.
complete understanding.
If you want me to address this? Yes. Yeah, I spoke to him today, and we talked about this, and he assured me that they will continue this project whether we pass something like this or not. They have a professional obligation to move forward. And under our contract with them, we're going to have to pay them where we owe them at the end of the day. And he says some of these estimates were probably somewhat inflated because he didn't want us to be surprised at the end of the job. But he's going to revisit these and see if he can come up with some lower numbers and maybe a better prediction of what the costs are actually going to be. He agreed with me. He understood our reluctance to pay thousands of dollars for a time when nothing's happening. You know, and he understood that. And he said all he wants is the assurance that we'll be fair with him. And I said, well, I can guarantee we'll be fair with you. If you, because there's some costs that are going to be extra that are incurred because of delays. But I felt like this was just too much. So he understands that we're going to, in all probability, defer this tonight. He's going to send me some more information with some revised numbers that that maybe we'll be more comfortable with, and we'll take it from there. So I think with that being said, that a motion to defer would be in order.
That's fair.
I'll make that motion to defer.
I'll second.
Okay. Next item is the mayor's.
We can't vote on the motion for yet.
All in favor of making the motion to defer?
He made the motion, he made the second, but we didn't have a vote on the motion.
Ms. Kelly called it out.
Jones,
Yes.
Lee,
Yes.
Wilkerson. Yes. Calver.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Motion to defer has passed. The next item is the mayor's third quarter mileage. This is short, but they didn't have a lot of meetings this time.
Motion to approve the mayor's mileage for third quarter.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we're looking for the utility rate study presentation.
All right. Thank y'all. I'm Jim Marshall with Jackson Thornton out of Montgomery, Alabama. Y'all engaged us to look at your water and sewer rates. And actually, where do I need to be? Can y'all see this fine? And I'm good. Okay, I'll try and get to where everybody can see it. In case y'all just kind of point to you to just doing when needed. But y'all engaged us to look at your water and sewer rates 3 times over a 5-year period. And if you'll go to the next slide. First, we'll look at water and water alone.
Try the right arrow on the keyboard instead.
Well, I can hit the first couple of slides, just kind of general talking points, introductory points. When we work with utilities, typical objectives of a rate study, why are we engaged by different utilities, regardless of the size? First step, or first reason really, is make sure y'all have enough money. Not only today, but going forward, right? And then with that, really underneath that, is fairness and equity. You want everybody to pay their fair share, nothing more, nothing less. You're a publicly owned utility, there's no profit motive. But y'all have to continually reinvest in your system. That takes dollars, right? That's RF money that y'all just, the second step, right? Second reading tonight, when you borrow the money from the state, you gotta pay it back. So that's always investing in your system, just a basic example of that. But you have to cover that cost. You have to pay the bank back. So you want to look at your rates and your cost, and it's really all driven by cost causation. Who is causing you to incur your costs? So we looked at your FY21 operations and maintenance expenses. We looked at looming capital needs and projected debt service associated with that as well. That really establishes your revenue target. Well, to have stable and sufficient revenue, you need to hit that target. All right, I mean, kind of hit target, establish target, hit target. Balancing your rates with affordability. That is top of mind. So truthfully, tonight is not going to be great news in those regards. Keeping rates simple and then defensible. And this is, I'm boiling down 100 pages of data into about 20 different PowerPoint slides. Everything we do adheres to the American Water Works Association's M1 manual, which is the leading resource in this industry, in this niche. I'm actually on the committee that oversees that manual. Quick overview of the process. And I will say, if y'all have questions, please ask, make comments. It's 20 slides. We're already on slide 3, even though y'all can't see it. And I don't want y'all thinking about something on slide 4. We're on slide 8. You know, I do this all the time. This is, I think I looked today, this is the 71st and 72nd study I've delivered this year. My team and I have delivered this year. So we do this a good bit. Inflation is driving a lot of that right now. But overview of the process is I'm kind of stalling as well. How much money do you need to make? We look at water in its own silo, sewer in its own silo. Sewer customers should pay for sewer, water customers should pay for water. Pretty simple there. And the target is made up of O&M, which does not include depreciation. Depreciation is not a cash need, okay? When we look at debt service, we're looking at principal and interest. Not only existing debt, but what y'all, the SRF money, we have that plugged in. We have estimated debt service around the $7 million figure on the sewer treatment plant as well when we get to sewer. So once we establish the target, then we also incorporate rate funded capital in that. Once we establish the target, it's then who is causing us to incur those costs? Residential, commercial, industrial, and so on. A commercial customer typically is going to use a system in a different way than a residential customer is. The more water somebody buys or a commercial entity buys, the more they're going to pay for because y'all buy all your water, right? I mean, so we're going to pass that along. That's a variable expense. Your debt service, it's a fixed expense. It has nothing to do really with how much sewer you're treating day in and day out. You have to pay the bank the same amount every month, regardless of the volumes coming through. So ideally, we're going to look at that when it comes to rate design in that customer charge. That's really a blend of steps 2 and 3. The fourth step, implementing rate changes, is what we'll discuss, but we really need to have I can't talk y'all through that. That's a visual we'll need. Before we get into it, and as we're waiting, what questions, concerns, comments do y'all have? Perhaps I can address now before we actually dive into y'all's specific information.
What was the longevity of the study again, you said?
Well, the cost of service studies, by definition, you're looking at a defined period. You're looking at a snapshot.
Right.
The engagement that I want to say is back in March or April of this year, February, March, April, it's 3 rounds of studies over a 5-year period. And we typically work with the vast majority of our folks, we work with every other year. So put a 2-year rate plan into effect. If needed, come back, look at it, see if that's addressing the needs, and continue to fine tune and tweak the plan. Here we go. Thank you very much. Y'all's night just got a lot easier, as did mine. All right, so if we'll look at if we'll move to page 4. All right, so total revenue requirement for the water system. O&M expense of just over $1 million. That's salaries, that's paying Gallatin for water, that's all the O&M for water and water alone. Debt service is right at $180,000. Roughly half of that did not yet exist. That's associated, I think $91,000 roughly is associated with the SRF loan. Rate funded capital of $320,000. It's money that y'all would want to reinvest into the system on an annual basis. Total revenue requirement of $1.5 million. And I will say at the outset, all underlying data was provided by the city, whether it be in direct documentation or back in August, in mid-August, we came up here, had a work session in this room, walked through the studies, made changes where appropriate. So all underlying data comes from the city itself. So we have a revenue requirement of $1.5 million. Back off other revenue, late payments, interest income, things like that. Rates need to generate, to fully fund that requirement for water and water alone, rates need to generate $1,450,000. Okay. Yeah, if you'll go to the next one, I'm sorry. All right, so for every dollar that needs to come in, 67 cents is going to fund O&M, 21 cents is being directly reinvested into the system, and then 12 cents of every dollar is going to pay debt. That's an unusually high percentage of money going to pay O&M. You know, if you look at debt and rate funded capital, those are infrastructure driven numbers. Debt service, you're paying back money you borrowed to reinvest into your system, and rate funded capital is pay as you go. The one reason for that is that y'all don't have a water treatment plant. So it's not as capital intensive as the sewer system is, for instance. But that's a lower number, that 33 cents on the dollar going to infrastructure to the low end of what we see typically. Okay. All right, revenue requirement by rate class. So going left to right, you have the system total there on the left, which is just under that 1.5 million number. Residential in, commercial in, industrial in. When I say in, that's inside city limit. Residential in, commercial in, industrial in, residential out, commercial out, and then the city. This shows you who is driving your costs based off the number of customers in each class, how much water they're buying month in and month out, and how much water they're buying during the peak month. You obviously are a residentially driven system, not a big surprise. The city needs, or the city column there is, and correct me if I'm wrong, that's primarily water used at the sewer treatment plant. So in essence, ultimately one can make the argument, that's a sewer expense. that need there. But so what this tells us, outside looking in, is this industrial inside and commercial out, there's hardly anything there. I mean, you're talking a handful of customers that use hardly any water at all. So relative to the financial sufficiency of the system, you could triple those rates, aggravate the heck out of a handful of folks, and it doesn't do y'all any good. I mean, there's just that scale, that juice just didn't worth the squeeze, so to speak. For y'all to be in solid shape, residential in and residential out need to be paying their fair share because they're obviously far and away your two largest rate classes. Okay? All right. So on water, it's really good news in that in a perfect cost of service world, you want to have the system in every rate class at 100%. That means everybody's paying their fair share. Y'all are 104 and anywhere between 96, 97, 103, 104, you're right in line with where you need to be. Challenges within the water system are that the water that's being sold to the city on the sewer side, and staff, y'all correct me if I'm misspeaking, but that's a non-revenue item. So that's about 10% of your volume that y'all are buying from Gallatin that you're not getting any money from. So ideally, that's actually, that $94,000 shortfall would be a sewer expense. But the sewer system is not in a position to handle that. So you have to lean on everybody else to over-recover and kind of subsidize that sewer service, or the city water there. All right, next slide, please. All right, and this is, when I left here, I spoke with actually it was after the representative from the comptroller's office was here, and we spoke, and I wanted to make sure that what the state is okay with what I'm recommending for y'all to consider, given the capital needs on the sewer side and the current rate design that y'all have in effect for both water and sewer. Even though the water system is in fine shape relative to recovery, you include usage in the minimum bill. Y'all include 2,000 gallons in your customer charge. You also do the same thing on the sewer side. And it makes a lot of sense on the sewer side to eliminate the usage in the minimum bill over a two-step process, in theory, over a 2-year period. But to be able to do that on sewer, you need to do it on water, just from an administrative and a billing standpoint. So, over conversation with the comptroller's office and their utility specialist, we're looking at intentionally over-recovering on water in the short term, given what I assume will be on similar to sewer, some probably large capital needs on the water side, an assumption on my part, but I think that's fair. If you'll go to the next slide, and I'll show you really what we're looking at doing. The result of your study is I'm looking at residential and residential alone. It costs y'all $19 to have a customer on the system, residential inside, before they buy any water from y'all. And then $12.03 for every 1,000 gallons that they buy. That's represented in this blue line. That's your cost curve. If you're above the blue line, you're making money. If you're below the blue line, you're losing money. This red line is your current rate. It's how your revenue's coming in. At full implementation of this, it's not a rate increase, but if you think about it, y'all are currently charging $35, and just for math's sake, $35.40. But you're including in that $9 times 2, you're including $18 worth of water in that customer charge. Does that make sense? Just based off your rate design, you're charging $35, you're giving away 18. So that's, which is relative to your cost is fine. And again, we're gonna over-recover in the short term on water to hopefully allow y'all to have some financial flexibility whenever this master plan from your consulting engineer is complete and y'all begin to address the capital needs on the water side as y'all are now on the sewer side.
Can I stop you and ask a question? Where did that $9 come from? Is it that?
That's your existing rate. This $9 here, that's your, y'all have a declining block rate structure currently in place.
Okay.
So that's, yeah, I'm sorry, here's your current rate, here's the proposed rate. The one change is eliminating usage in the minimum bill. 2,000 and 1,000 in step 1, 1,000 down to 0 in step 2. And it's semantic. Anybody that uses over 2,000 gallons would pay more money, but you're not having a rate increase. You're eliminating the usage in the minimum bill. Ready to go to the next. So your average customer right now is costing you roughly $55 a month. You're collecting $44 a month. This would be an $18 increase over a 2-year period. So $9 increase, a monthly increase, $9 in year 1, $9 in year 2. Largely driven by this, my recommendations on water are largely driven by the significant needs on the sewer side. And you need to, your rate approach, your rate methodology needs to be consistent, and you need to have enough money to operate in the way y'all need to operate. So this is, we can't quite get there on sewer in a 2-year period. This can help subsidize that. In the interim, it is not ideal. At the outset, I said water should pay for water, sewer should pay for sewer. But I would also anticipate, typically if there's significant needs on one system, there are going to be significant needs on the other system. Y'all are addressing now sewer needs. On the treatment side, there'll be sewer collection needs following behind that. I fully anticipate some water distribution needs as well. Very rarely is one actively maintained while the other one isn't as actively maintained. Typically that's a pretty consistent that you're going to maintain both, improve both at about the same rate, same speed. Does that make sense?
I do want to make sure I follow. So basically what you're saying is, going back to what you were talking about on the previous slide, so instead of essentially including a block of water, if you will, on the front end, the rate itself is not changing, but you're allowing the city would just be charging for whatever that person used from the get-go instead of
You'll get back to that.
including that on the front end, because at the end of the day, that's causing the city to actually lose money on that portion of water. Is that?
Yes, essentially, yes.
Okay.
Yes. And in the state, I presented at the Tennessee Association Utility Districts Leadership Conference in Gatlinburg 2 weeks ago, not quite 2 weeks ago. And we talked about eliminating usage in the minimum bill. And then representative from Comptroller's office followed behind us the next day and recommended essentially the same action if needed. And again, I'll be very clear, based off your existing or your current water needs, water's in fine shape. Sewer, and we'll get to sewer here in a second, sewer's not. And I also anticipate y'all having to begin to invest more money. You know, I mentioned it's like 33 cents on the dollar is going to infrastructure. When this master plan or capital plan comes back from your consulting engineer, there are going to be projects y'all are going to need to do. They're going to be above the $300,000 roughly a year that I've got in here. And that's going to be that balance, you know, so that Mayor and I talked about it, ideally that's going to be ready when we're back for the second round, right? And essentially 2 years from now. So we'll have a better defined target on what that number needs to be. And so there's the financial plan needs to dovetail with the capital plan. And this is what we're beginning to do. But what I'm, from my perspective, how I'm trying to provide a little value to y'all. All right, so that'll bring in about $400,000 if you want to go to slide 11. All right, so this is at full implementation. That commercial out, if y'all want to reduce that customer charge, that's fine. That's such small volume, that is not any real revenue, significant revenue. And that is at $300, $3 for every dollar, quite a premium. But this is a short-term measure, a short-term recovery number, again, because of anticipated capital needs and temporarily offsetting short-term sewer needs. Okay. You'll go to the next one, please. Sewer. Next one.
Can we back up? I'm sorry, but can we back up there? So are you saying that by not doing anything other than just getting rid of the minimum usage, that's what it would change, how it would affect everything?
Yes. If you think about it, y'all are giving away 18, you keep the customer charge where it is. So if you'll go back to that rate curve, one more, perfect, thank you. So you're still going to be collecting $35 or charging $35, $39 a month to your existing residential inside customers. Okay? But currently you include what is just under $18 of water in that. By reducing the usage in the minimum bill, you're no longer giving that commodity away. You're going to collect revenue for it at $8.96 per 1,000 gallons. So everybody that uses 2,000 gallons or more is going to be paying another $18 a month at full implementation.
So in this, you're saying $35.39 is just a service fee, essentially, and then your $8.96 is what you're paying for every 1,000 gallons that you use.
Up to 5,000 gallons based off your rate curve, yeah. Your current rates, yes.
So right now, if I use the minimum 2,000 gallons or I don't, I'm paying $35.39.
Correct.
If I use, going forward, if I use 2,000 gallons, I'll be paying, what would that be? That'd be
Go to the next slide.
42?
44. No, excuse me, you're currently paying
50, a little over 52,
yeah.
53.
So, let me double check something real quick here.
So you're not saying change anything with the rates, you're just saying impose a service charge.
You're already imposing a service charge. You're giving roughly half of it away in water. I'm saying eliminate what you're giving away.
So, right now,
I mean, I get it. I mean, I get that that's the cost that it takes for us to service that 2,000 gallons of water that they may or may not be using currently. I just want to make sure I understand right that you're wanting us to charge for the water and also charge them a service charge on top of the cost of the water.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah, because right now we don't start billing until a certain amount of water has been used. There's no additional money that comes out until after they pass the threshold.
No, I get how it works.
Yeah.
I get how it works now. That we've got a minimum bill. Now we're going to be charging them the minimum bill plus the water.
Well, it's very common. It's a customer charge. Y'all's infrastructure is in the ground and is maintained 24/7, 365.
So that's essentially increasing our water bill by $36 a month, just for the water.
No. No.
So it'd be just increasing our water bill by a little shy of $17 a month, or a little more than $17 a month.
Right, so it's anybody that uses 2,000 gallons or more. When you go from 2,000 down to 1,000 gallons, you're going to be paying another $8.96 a month. So it's the existing customer charge plus that $8.96. When you go from 1,000 down to 2,000, or 1,000 down to zero included, eliminate all usage in the minimum bill, it's another $8.96. Another way of looking at it, your average customer is right at 3,000 gallons. If you'll go on the sewer, you're only collecting revenue on one of those units because you're including 2 of those units in the minimum bill. We no longer want to include those units in the minimum bill. I strongly suggest that y'all consider eliminating the usage in the minimum bill. Is that?
No, I'm following you. You just
Okay.
want us to charge more. I'm following you.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You want us to charge them twice, basically. I'm following you.
Want the customer to pay for what?
No, I don't want y'all to give it away. We're not charging double.
I'm following you.
Okay.
I'm following you.
Okay.
I follow you.
Okay. No, because the sewer is the one where it's.
It's really gonna not make me happy
On those first couple slides, did it show how much we were putting in as far as maintenance hours and equipment?
The rate funded capital?
Yes.
That target was about $300,000.
And how far off are we on meeting?
Well, that's on water, you're not. You know, on water, the target was, you know, reviewing it real quick, $1 million of O&M, $180,000 of debt service principal and interest. That's including the SRF money, which is roughly a little bit more than double that. And rate funded capital, $320,000 a year.
So we're making it.
Right, you're already, I mean, that's you're already at 104%. So you're right in line with where you need to be on water if you didn't have any looming capital projects above the $300,000 and if sewer were fine. Okay?
And that includes the AMI system.
Correct. The debt service that is not yet on the books. You want to be able to look forward with your rate. So we're trying to, that's included in that. All right. And this is the fun one. All right, so O&M, $612,000. Debt service of principal and interest of $417,000. The vast majority of that does not yet exist, or that hadn't been paid during 21. That's an estimated, of the $417,000 of debt service, $374,000 of that is associated with the $7 million sewer treatment plant project. Rate funded capital of right at $330,000, $334,000. So the revenue requirement of just south of 1.4 million. Back off a little bit of other revenue and we're at rate requirement of 1.36 million. Okay? All right, so here's a little bit different than as you would expect. In the water side, 45 cents of every dollar is going to fund ongoing operations and maintenance. 31 cents of every dollar is going to, every dollar needed is going to debt service. 24 cents is being directly reinvested back into the system. Okay? All right. Not as many rate classes as sewer primarily is all, but just essentially is all inside city limits. You have residential, commercial, and industrial. Residential makes up the vast majority of the system. There's just not much, there isn't much of an industrial load based off y'all's, how y'all's rate classes are set up. Okay? All right. Recovery by rate class. Again, this sums up 50 pages into one sheet as best as we can. For every dollar you need with that new debt figured in, you're getting 69 cents on the dollar. 62 cents from residential inside, 87 cents commercial, 83 cents industrial. And you can see this industrial inside, total revenue of $3,000, $3,100 on a over $1 million need. It just isn't that big of a deal. So we knew we couldn't, if we're trying to get to full recovery in a year, that's not feasible. 2 years was even a little bit aggressive. All right, so if you'll go to the All right, sewer system under recovered by about $430,000, $375,000 of which is the debt service associated with the treatment plant. That's on a $1 million of revenue on a $1.4 million need in round numbers. Okay. Much like on water, 2-year approach. The challenge with sewer is you don't have nearly the number of sewer customers as you do water. If you notice, the revenue requirements are pretty much in line. They're not far apart, 1.5, 1.4. It's just the sewer system itself is a fraction of the number of water customers. And I'll give you, all right, go to the next slide. So why are we, this helps illustrate the need on what we did on the water side and driven by the sewer here. It costs y'all $49 a month to have a sewer customer, residential sewer customer on your system before y'all collect any sewer from them at all. And then $16.50 for every 1,000 gallons you collect. That's this blue line. This red line is where your current rates are. This is how your revenue is coming in on a per unit basis. And again, if you're below the blue line, you're losing money. If you're above the blue line, you're making money. This greenish yellowish line here is the impact of reducing the usage in the minimum bill over a 2-year period from 2,000 down to 1,000. Now your existing customer charge of $44 here, coming just from y'all's rate sheets, that's in line with where it should be. The challenge is you're giving away $22.40 of sewer in that, because you include 2,000 gallons or 2 units. So that's what's driving the recommendation to reduce the usage in the minimum bill. Truthfully on both. Just to show y'all that really, on the treatment related debt, it's about $375,000 a year. Divide that by the number of bills sent, it's $32 a month. $32.45 a month. $374,000 of debt. Y'all sent out 11,500 bills roughly. That's a huge reason for the need to adjust your rates. And again, it's semantics. You are not raising rates. This is a rate adjustment. For it to be a rate increase, for y'all to raise rates, these numbers have to go up. Right? You're not raising rates, but you're no longer in a position to continue to give away your volume. I fully anticipate, fast forward in 2 years, we're not getting there with just this one. There's going to be more increases on both water and sewer. All right, so if you'll go to the next. And this is for a 3,000 gallon customer, it's costing y'all right at $99 a month, which is your average customer. Y'all are currently collecting $55 a month. This gets you to about $78. So we're not trying to get all the way there. And this goes, and I want y'all to have some considerations around this, not necessarily tonight, but moving forward. Now y'all see why that sewer expense on the water side, roughly $90,000 of non-revenue water that y'all send into the sewer plant, why we didn't shift it out of water onto here. Because that's just going to make water look $100,000 better and sewer look $100,000 worse. And there's not a perfect answer in this step or in these steps. So we're asking everybody that uses over 2,000 gallons at full implementation will be paying another $22 a month for sewer. And that gets, we'll go to the last slide.
sorry, did you say everybody that uses over 2,000?
2,000 or more, yeah.
Okay, so,
If you're a 1,000 gallon user, you're gonna be paying another $11.
okay.
2,000 gallons or more, you're carrying the full burden of that reduction in the minimum bill. And you can see that gets you to 88 cents on the dollar. Assuming costs don't go up, nobody gets raises, and your usage characteristics stay the same. So that's, maybe I should have led with sewer, but that's driving the water recommendations. Because it really didn't sink in with me until we were here in August. You're addressing treatment plant concerns now, and there's a good chance there's going to be sizable collection needs as well. That's not factored in here. So if you think about it, if you're, let's say interest rate or interest terms are the same, borrowing terms are the same, if you're borrowing 7 on treatment, then it's $32 a bill. Well, if you're spending 14 on the collection, that's another $66 a bill. You're at $100 of debt service per bill per month before you paid anybody, before you paid a chemical expense, before you touch depreciation. That's just debt. So that's why it's, without looming, that's why we're recommending taking it in steps now, so that you're not having to look at doubling rates in a one-year period. That is economic dislocation. This is trying to balance y'all's needs as a system versus affordability and being fair to your constituents. If you go back one slide, because we can defend right now. Typically an average customer in a lot of systems is going to be about 5,000 gallons, water and sewer. We can defend $131 a month for a 5,000 gallon sewer customer. That doesn't make sense right now. And that's before we factor in any work on the collection plant outside of the $300,000 a year target. So it's not just where y'all are now, but it's where it looks like y'all might be 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, that is driving this, what is significant, I'm not hiding, it's significant rate action. Thoughts, questions, concerns?
How soon do we need to formulate a plan to put these things in action?
The sooner the better. Because one thing that's not factored in, y'all, since we met, y'all agreed to, we have the debt service in there, but we never got a feel for how quickly, y'all pulled out of cash reserves for this metering project. How much cash did y'all pull out and how quickly you want to build it back up? If it was $1 million, you want to build it back up in 5 years, well then we need to add $200,000 in here. But I don't know that we're in a position to do that right now.
So right now, just for clarity purposes, right now our minimum for sewer is $44. Right now, is that correct?
You've got that right, Kurt. 4418 includes 2,000 gallons on residential inside.
And for water, it's 35, or was it 36?
On water, $35.39.
Okay, so right now we're paying $53 for 2,000 usage, essentially. And now, with this proposal, you're saying that we should be charging for 2,000 gallons of usage, $119.58, $119 and some change.
I mean, I haven't looked at them blended together. I've looked at them in a silo, but that's, yeah. I mean, on water.
So over a 100% increase?
You said 35.39 and then 44.18, which is 79.57.
Because if I did my math right, your 35 plus your $18 for 2,000 gallons would be 53 bucks for water, right?
Right.
And then for your sewer side, you're saying $44 plus 11.20 per thousand, which would be another 22.40. So that'd be 66.58 plus ballpark 53 bucks would be 119.58, right? So that's over 100% increase in water?
No, it's not.
Going from 53 for 2,000 gallon usage to 119? Yeah, you're right. Okay, so 40. Still 40%. So it's still a significant increase. Huge increase.
Yeah, that's what I said that.
It's a stupid increase.
You had mentioned that the outside rates should match the inside rates, and that would help alleviate some of that, or just be
I
fair?
mean, typically, right now, I wouldn't worry about inside versus outside. Right now, the outside is a little bit, carries a little bit more, and that's way down y'all's list of concerns. Or way down my list of concerns for y'all. I don't say it's one of y'all's concerns, one of my concerns for y'all.
50% increase.
This is similar to how we were when you first told us.
So that's
Well, I mean,
the
that's-
first recommendation, right out of the gate, right to fix that.
I mean, that's why I wanted to point out that new debt at the treatment plant's $32 a month. You gotta have that. Like, it's in the like if you pay them back. And that's why I'd say it's 2 steps. Now, we met, when we were here in August, we met for 6 hours. Walked through it in detail. And
Was it just you and the mayor that was here at that meeting? They were here as well? None of us were here, right?
no,
Okay. Did you let us know about that?
It was an administrative meeting only with him. You wouldn't want to be here for the information they had to provide to him.
and superintendent was here as well.
Yes, Aaron was here.
Aaron. Yeah, there were 4 y'all and 2 of us. Which is typically how we do it, because just walking through the spreadsheets doesn't need to be, y'all don't want to be here 6 hours.
So that's your first recommended step. As soon as we can get it on an agenda to approve it, would be your recommendation.
And y'all strongly need to consider doing it. With the idea of it's roughly 25% this year, 25% next.
When we went through this data before, we included the additional loan for the sewer plant. I don't know the exact number, but we received some debt forgiveness off of that. So that was a couple $100,000 that we're off of that loan, we're not having to pay back. So that'll make a little bit of dent in it.
When did that,
They, what, 2 weeks ago, sent us that information?
It was on the additional loan that we took out.
on the 7 million? So instead of borrowing 7 million, y'all are borrowing,
No, it was not the 7, because that was the original one.
The second loan was.
Was 1 point.
They're giving 200, I think around 200 of debt forgiveness, so.
It's like 20%.
So you've got the whole amount in there, but like I said, it's not.
right, this is based off around borrowing 7.
Okay, when you say 2-step system, you're saying not to go fully to 0, but to step down to 1,000.
2 to 1,
and then
1
go
to
down
2,
next
or
year.
it's 2 to 1,
Not
1 to
make it
0,
such a
excuse me.
boom,
Right.
But to take it, still not the greatest, but I think it comes with that.
No, and it's Yeah, no, I enjoy this probably about as much as y'all.
I know.
Oh, no, we're gonna enjoy it less because we have to pay for it. You get to go back to Montgomery.
Yep.
But then you just come back.
Unfortunately, we have projects that have to be done. Like, this is not something we can.
The asset management plan and all those things will dictate, once they're known, how much more will have to be added to this.
And I think something that we had talked about also was when there was discussions about the new subdivision that was going in, we were talking about how that would impact it as far as, would it help out having 300 plus more catch funds, or was it not? I think you were saying it really wasn't gonna be.
It depends on the arrangements up front. I mean, if they're paying for themselves, any rooftops are good rooftops. Because that's one more rooftop to absorb that service, because the debt service isn't going to change. But it's, I don't remember capacity constraints, where y'all are relative to existing capacity versus the need for new capacity. But in your existing rates where they are now, it doesn't help a ton.
Well, I'd just like to say, I mean, this is, I know all of us are kind of sitting here flabbergasted because this is obviously not something that we want to talk about, but, at the end of the day, the choice is to simply do nothing, and I feel like that's how we've gotten here. Or to do something like this and no one likes it. And at the end of the day, providing these services are not optional. I mean, people can optionally live here, and I would never suggest for someone to move away, but to me, there's really no choice in the matter. We've got to swallow a hard pill and do our best to try to smooth that in, because it's not going to change, and if we decide to do nothing, it just makes it harder on the next group of people to come in here. And they have to question why we didn't do something. And then the rates doubled at that point if nothing's done now. Instead of us doing the right thing now and not putting that off on somebody else.
I think you're right. And as we develop it without the changes, that it'll only add more to the offset that would have to be corrected later, which would mean the money would be even larger. And if we don't make those corrections, we're not going to grow either. So, because we have to pay for the stuff that they need to be here. So, but we certainly, through those developer plans and standard principles, developers have the contracts and fees and all that stuff understood up front that they pay those, and that takes the burden off of this kind of stuff as much as it can, because we've identified it and we don't want it to go into that. We want it to be, like you said, sufficient pay for itself.
And Jim, I think this is, I'm trying to refresh my own memory on this. Something else that was talked about where, because we were all just silent and kind of flabbergasted, and most of these things, as far as what we're paying, are fixed, right? It's not like we can tweak some numbers somewhere and change it on the expenses side.
Doesn't seem like it. I mean, I think
you have
very little control over your water bill.
I think we had even talked about like our salaries, like employee salaries were just a drop in the bucket compared to the overall expenses and everything.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh, let's watch out for overtime or anything. It was like just so beyond whatever we could.
You had mentioned the actual cost of the purchase of the water from Gallup. That's been something in the community and something that's talked about at the table a lot.
Right.
But you said even that number is small compared to everything else. So it's the rate's not the...
Your water rates on an island are sufficient based off limited capital planning, and that y'all have a master plan process, or in some form of development. That will change that. But what y'all are paying Gallatin, in full disclosure, I work with Gallatin. And we're in the middle of our, we have not yet finalized our first round of studies with them. But what you're paying in for water has absolutely nothing to do with what's happening on your sewer system. This is driven by the existing sewer needs. I'm comfortable saying y'all that there's going to be substantial collection upgrades needed or rehab needed as well, based off the conversation we had in August. We're just trying to be able to absorb that when it comes, because that isn't in here.
But it is on the water side, obviously.
On water, we have limited capital investment there because there's no plan yet.
Well, I'm just talking about that, for the 67 cents to $1 that it takes for operations and maintenance.
Right.
That, I know it doesn't have anything to do with the rate, don't get me wrong, but there's quite a bit of money that's being put into just making sure that the water is getting to where it needs to be and constantly maintained.
Yes, a big, okay.
You're with me.
So, yeah,
So I'm jumping back to slide number 6, I think.
You're right, and that's, think about it, y'all don't have the capital investment, but you have a larger O&M expense because you don't produce your own water. You're buying it. So
exactly. That's what I'm getting at.
Little over half of your O&M is paying your water bill. And y'all total need of $1 million.
For a water bill from Gallatin, what you're saying, before
Yes,
it's
your wholesale purchases.
Right.
It was, in FY21, was roughly $560,000 out of $1,010,000, I think the number was. $1,016,000. So a little bit more than half of your O&M is paying your wholesale provider.
And that's why you can't make fair comparisons like comparing it to Gallatin, because Gallatin is obviously producing their water from the river.
Right.
Like however you look at it, but.
No, that's what, y'all run two distinct systems in that you treat your own sewer and you purchase water. So so you have a higher capital investment on sewer than you do water. That's why it costs y'all more on sewer.
Right.
You'll have more assets, depreciation is a bigger factor on sewer than it is water. And it doesn't help that relative to the number of customers, bear with me while I'm. So where are we on water? On water, y'all have right at 1,800 customers, give or take. That's inside, outside. And you have just under 1,000 sewer customers. It's a huge difference. Yeah. It's a huge difference. And that's, hard to work with, but y'all got to work with it. Kind of, it is what it is, right? So, and I don't recommend trying to recruit new sewer customers. Not many folks clamoring to be in the sewer business these days.
So long-term look at this, if we do this for 2 years, are you saying that would get us back in good shape?
Get you to 88 cents on the dollar for sewer. Get you to about 130 on water.
So all in all, yes?
Based off what we know now, yes. Okay. And I'm not dodging your question, but in 2 years, there's going to be probably some collection issues that need to be addressed on sewer and the water capital plan as well. Those aren't in here at all.
Right.
So I don't expect y'all in 2 years, when that plan's in place, I don't expect y'all to be at 100%. But based off what we know now in the short term, at full implementation, based off the needs as established, y'all will be in fine shape.
So is there any hope for when this study is complete and we've progressed further on down the road with a substantial increase, is there any hope of a light at the end of the tunnel where we may be able to reduce the rate?
Highly doubtful. The inflation's running at 8%. Yeah. I mean, so there's a lot of stuff that's outside of y'all's control, but there is stuff within y'all's control. growth can help alleviate some of this. And that whatever salaries are covered by rates, that's one more rooftop, 2 more rooftops to absorb those salaries. But you're also incurring a capital expense to bring them on, whether it's in depreciation or paying for it yourself. Every action has a cost. Every investment has a cost. So in the last 2 years, and I'm kind of shooting from the hip, but it's going to be close enough. We've done roughly 70 presentations this year. We did about, say, 50 last year. So in the last 22 months, we've done well over 100, almost 150, we'll say. 100, let's say 120, sorry. 2 clients of ours have been able to keep their rates where they are. And some of these systems we've been working with for over a decade. And they're sizable, 30,000 customer systems. Rate decreases are highly unusual, and even if you are able to decrease the rate, people are still going to be paying more, because chances are with one of the, what's the best way to say this, given the metering upgrades, I think you'll see that people are buying more water from you just because you're getting rid of old meters.
Yeah.
So that's one of the reasons we didn't want to go up on the volumetric rate, because that's an unknown right now. If somebody's using 3,000 gallons and they're buying 3,000 gallons, but y'all are really selling them 5, and I'm not a meter guy. Then they're going to be paying on sewer. They're paying another $20 a month based off that, just the additional volume that you're not yet capturing. So we didn't want to have a rate increase on that. So the light at the end of the tunnel, maybe your cost per unit comes down because you're able to build and collect more units based off upgraded meters. But that doesn't mean your customers, at the end of the day, your customers' bills, are they going to be able to pay less? Very, very doubtful.
And there's no way that we can count on that data until as far as the new meters, because it's not implemented, and there's no way to sit there and predict like it's going to go one way or another, because nobody at this table knows in what condition or shape that any of those meters are in, other than a guess.
Right, and that's why we didn't, because we talked about that, and it's too much of an unknown, because that's a double whammy if you have an increase on the volumetric rate, and then you're selling them more volume than they're used to, because you haven't been capturing all of it. So that's why we avoided having an increase, or I didn't want to recommend the rate increase on the volumetric rate for that reason, because it is an unknown.
But I do think, unless something completely unknown happens, I would think by the end of this proposed 2-year, that we will figure it out from the AMI system what impact that has had.
Right.
Does this have to be on a 2-year takeout, or can it be on a 4-year? Not hurt as bad.
I'd really like for y'all to do it in 2. 4, you're not making up the ground as quick. If new debt needs to come on between now and the end of 4 years, then you're not making up any ground. One of the reasons that this is, y'all might think this is too aggressive, is because I know there's more debt coming. There are more capital needs coming. So it's how can we
prepare for it.
It's either, yeah, let's get in good shape as y'all are willing to give, knowing that y'all going to have to bite off more debt.
So when we have to upgrade the collection system or invest in a new water tower or that kind of thing, we'll be sitting in a situation where we can look at these kind of numbers and know exactly how much of it is going to be paid for from us, or how much would be a rate increase.
We were talking about Dutch Creek the other day, how that was their problematic system, and that's not going to go away.
Other than just assuming that, well, we've got the money in the account, it should pay for itself. And that's about as far as we ever get sometimes in the conversation. So this will help us. So back any further questions?
Well, I don't want to jump the gun here, but I know timing-wise that this is a bit awkward as far as how to get this implemented, because we can't do it tonight. and that means that it's got to be put in a different meeting to do this.
It'd have to be done by ordinance, right? So it'd take 2 months to do it anyways.
Could have a special meeting on the first to get one reading out of the way. And then, then you can pass it in January.
Sure.
I'm assuming you're not gonna have a meeting in December. So
Right.
that would at least get you started. Get one reading down.
So after we do those steps, we're talking about having them completed in January. Between January and the second phase of this, what interactions with our accounting would you do to make sure when the second phase of this would start?
FY '23.
Okay.
At the conclusion of, and we can answer any questions.
So if this is enacted in January, in June, you'd be ready to roll?
It'd be at the conclusion of FY '23. We want to see this take effect. And hopefully, to your point, hopefully, and I don't know where y'all are in the meeting when they're teed up to go, but hopefully there's upgraded metering's been in place for at least a significant portion of fiscal year.
It should be in place for at least 10 months of that fiscal year.
And so that way, if there are substantial changes in readings and accuracy, improved accuracy of readings, then that can be reflected in the study. Because your costs are what they are.
Right.
And when we look at it on a cost per unit basis, there should be more units with better metering, more accurate metering, so that cost per unit is going to come down.
That's just a hard pill to swallow.
With this high as it already is, it's ridiculous, crazy, but that's the truth.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard to swallow. First night, the new married, he's raising the water rates.
That's pretty rough to do that.
Because you got we have water sewer projects on top of it, on that big.
I know, it'd be like $132 a month.
Well, and what I'm considering is if over the next year we're getting those new meters, then, I mean, we can figure, I mean, I was already figuring my bill at home's probably gonna go up 10% just from having a new meter, you know. It's not as hard to, you know, if I see my usage goes up from 3,000 gallons to 4,000 gallons, okay, I'm using it, I can kind of see it, you know, and I think, okay, well, it's kind of been not accurate before, but.
When we change the way you pay for what you get,
Yeah.
it makes it even worse.
Well, and a challenge that y'all have is a smaller residentially driven system. You only have so many ways you can get the money. Because if you don't get it in the customer charge, then you just need to really increase the volumetric rate on the first, based off average usage, 3,000 gallons. When you have to break even at your average customer. And there's not enough usage there at 3,000 gallons a month that, you know, if y'all need another $10 a month, you're going to $3 without 38,000 gallons. There's not an easy. I'm not going to pretend this is easy. Our work session back in August may or may not have had tears shed, or close to it.
It was pretty rough with the ladies. We were distraught.
And these are not recommendations we made lightly. Very rare, or I have made for y'all to consider lightly. I don't often talk to the comptroller's office before making rate recommendations. In fact, this is probably the first time I've done that.
Here's another question for you, because it does concern the rate. When this happens, right now the comptroller's office states that we have to impose a 2% increase each year. Will we have to do that on top of this?
That's a question for them, but no, this is more than a 2% increase in revenue. This is more than.
This would meet their requirements.
This should.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't, generally, they don't care how you get the additional money, just that you get it, and y'all are getting well more than 2%.
Just wanted to make sure it wasn't from.
No, at that point, 2%, nobody will notice that anyway compared to the
Right.
50.
Yeah.
25 this year, 25 that, roughly.
Well, I'd like to get it in place, but I almost started out my first night.
I blame you for that.
Let's put it off the first of the year.
Passing January and February, it's not gonna make that much difference.
So we'll do the first reading in January.
Does the staff have the numbers they need for the ordinance? Do y'all have everything you need to know what this ordinance should say, and what the amounts are put in the rate?
I'll probably reach out to you.
Okay.
Just wanna be sure we get the
Just
right
make sure
numbers.
it's
Yeah, so
on.
so in step one, you include 2,000, then you have 3 to get the next, to get to 5,000, right? So it'd be, in step one, it'd be includes 1,000 gallon next 4. Step 2, no usage included, first 5,000 gallons, based off your existing tiered structure.
Did we want to do away with that step down basis off of quality of use, quantity of use?
Let's wait and see what the volume ratings are with new metering. I don't want to, until we have a better read on.
Explain that to them while you're here about it, because it's generally the opposite direction for everybody else.
The declining block rates. Basically what that's saying is the more you buy, the cheaper it gets, and that's not the case.
And that's what's making some
Most systems are either flat or have an inclining block rate, meaning the more you buy, the more expensive it gets.
So there was not a good way to put in place anything where I know I'm completely going against what you're saying, but like if you kept the minimum and up to 2,000 gallons and then anything over 2,000 gallons for the ones that used more, then you looked at a higher rate per 1,000 gallons over that versus, basically doing the reverse of.
Doing what you just said instead of doing the decline.
Instead of a decline.
Well, we don't have, there's not good metering data. Based off the conversation we had back in August, we expect changes on the volume that's being billed based off having new meters.
But you did say that the average customer is 2,000 gallons, right? So even if that was the case.
Well, right now with.
Right, assuming that
18-year-old
things
meters
are equal right now. The amount of customers that goes over 3,000 gallons declines substantially, I would imagine.
Yeah,
Since the average is 3.
roughly half are going to be over 3,000, half, so yeah, it's.
Whereas this.
You'd have to get all that volumetric rate, you'd have to take that next 3,000 from 3,000 to 5,000, you would have to almost double it.
What it boils down to is my main concern, which is what it always is the people who are in that minimum are usually retired and older and.
Fixed income.
Fixed income.
It already hurts to pay.
Their water bills are more expensive than their rate.
Yeah, and, that's what I'm saying, we called the state, hey, can we do something for people over a certain age? No, you cannot do that. You can't do a different rate for a different group of people. But when we recognize that, yes, most of our minimum customers are the ones living alone, and usually they are older. And when you just know that automatically they're going to be hit, they're going to see a bigger difference than the ones who are, I use 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 gallons a month. I don't know how much. I don't like that I pay $150 a month, but if I'm paying $170, I'm not going to notice that the same as somebody that pays $82 and would be paying $100 and something. That's what it's just, is
Right.
there another, I'm sure you looked at everything, and I know you've done this a ton, but I'm just, I have to ask.
Right, no, and my hope is that with better volumetric data, we can adjust the volumetric rates in phase 2. But I think knowing that you are gonna have to go borrow more money, you gotta pay the bank every month. You have to pay the bank every month. That's a fixed expense. Your fixed revenue is that customer charge. I mean, there's not a more palatable way to try and get a 50% increase in 2 years. If you try and subsidize somebody else, then you're being punitive to, if you're giving this person a discount, then somebody's paying a premium. And how are you going to, what's that discussion? We want to give her a $25 discount, so we pay $25 more a month. We're pulling those numbers out of thin air, right? So, but it's, the target is the target.
So we're only doing, so just so I'm clear, we're only doing half this year and then half next year. Is that what?
That's the recommendation.
Okay, all right. So when I was looking at it, I was looking at it all like, as soon as it went in place, your water bill jumping at $40.
No, this is
It's 20 and 20 or so.
trying to do is anything we can to temper the impact.
Okay.
But y'all have to have the money. Or not improve infrastructure.
That's 20 and
Or
20.
limp along like we have for the past 30 years, yeah.
That's 20 and 20 provided we don't get into a capital project. You have to get approved for a significant rate increase on top of that.
Well, I'm like Cameron, this is something that should have been done a long time ago,
Yeah.
but we need to make sure it gets done so ones following us don't have to swallow a bigger pill.
Mm-hmm.
And the next time we need a big project, we know exactly how much it's going to cost us.
So we'll do the first reading in January, second reading in February.
Sounds like a plan.
It gives you time to explain to the public what you're doing, why you're having to do it.
And we'll start the budget in March.
Everybody got your suit of armor ready?
Oh, she's the one that's gonna get it.
I'll be the one to get it.
Yep.
You have to build a bunker in City Hall. Did you factor that in too?
Talked about garbage cans for the past 6 months, so we're going to talk about.
Chip, are you done?
Pending any other questions or comments, I'm finished.
I appreciate you.
All right, thank y'all very much.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And it's not debatable.
Okay, before y'all leave, we have gifts. Y'all want me to read these or what? Yeah. Okay, this one is for Brian, in appreciation for your years of service to the citizens of Westmoreland as a member of the Westmoreland City Council and Mayor. Here's your plaque. And this one is for Chandra.
We'll take pictures. Look at Chandler's.
If I had known, oh no, I haven't.
In appreciation for your years of service to the citizens of Westmoreland as Vice Mayor and a member of the Westmoreland City Council, and you have 0 days left.
I remembered that when I heard it.
Realized it, I would have had a big celebration on Facebook.
Well, y'all need to take a picture.
Yes,
sir, yes,
Take it with your phone.
It's the same, you'll start with the big lady.
I know.
Hey, okay.
Do you want to take the plastic off?
See, I know, you see what you're into, what a glare.
Yep.
Good luck, see you.
See you.
Oh, Nick, come around.
We can crop you out.
Thanks, girl.
Did it?
Okay, I think you just went to that one. Okay, that's it.
I heard that.
Do what?